securing your brand refresh for me was such an exciting moment, mainly because I know the history of Niecon on the Gold Coast. I know how many buildings there are that span from Kirra to northern ends of the Gold Coast. So I think there's a lot of legacy there. And you guys are a young team now that have taken over the third generation. A brand refresh was something that was imminent for you to make your mark. How did it feel, I guess, for you to transition from what is such a historic brand on the Gold Coast and give it your own stamp?
I think it's pretty surreal because it's an odd circumstance. But working with you, the enjoyable part was when we managed to sit down with all the stakeholders from the past, at least family members. So we spoke to Mum, spoke to our uncle, then the three brothers, because obviously Dad's not around, Grandpa's not around to speak to. We spoke to our grandmother, not with you, but ourselves. And just hearing what it meant to each of those individuals is not a question that you ever ask in day to day. So asking those questions when they related to a brand was really, it was a nice insight to how our family that aren't us as individuals, how we see our brand. Bringing it forward into the future, I think, is a very important time now. Everything's digitising. Yeah. I think there's a lot of people who are entering the Gold Coast market that haven't been there before, and I think that bringing our brand from the history and legacy that we have now into the newer age is a very important step, so people realise that it's continuing.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of respect that we pay, and the luck that we have that we're able to continue a brand that has had such a strong presence on the Gold Coast for so many years. Absolutely.
And I think you mentioned like speaking to your mum and that whole family, a whole stakeholder engagement piece. That was so huge, I think, for someone leading the brand refresh, because what's important is that emotional connection to a brand. And that was such an emotional experience, even for myself, to go through and learn about you and your family beyond what I do know about the brand itself.
Yeah.
So very
well, it helped having you to get in touch with emotions, because we're three boys and it's not easy for us to get in touch with our emotions from that perspective, at least.
Unpack it slowly.
That helped. That really helped. But it's nice to take a step back and view something through a different lens.
Yeah.
It sort of enables you to ground yourself and start to look at things differently, at least try to approach it again from the buyer's perspective. Because you can tend to get a little bit selfish and want to control things a little bit too much without realising that there are stakeholders that are important to the process that you need to factor in when trying to put your best foot forward.
Yeah.
Because everything else is a given. Quality is a given. Service is of utmost importance.
Absolutely.
It's now how do you package it with the ethos, the mission, the vision, and put it in a framework and then deliver it to an audience that are being bombarded every day by different new people and new industries, new companies.
Yeah, were you expecting the brand refresh to go further than the logo? Were you expecting to get that granular?
When you start with a brand, it's interesting. I had a conversation with someone today. He's a mate of mine, he lives overseas, and he's knocking up a logo for one of his side businesses. And he said he was putting together a brand. I said, well, no, you're putting together a logo, you're not putting together a brand. And it was good, because that's exactly what you said to me, because I thought we were talking about, and we were fixated on a logo, forgetting that it's more holistic than a logo. The logo is but a symbol, like a mark. It's not the meaning behind why you do what you do.
No.
And then conveying that message in a holistic frame of mind. So it was nice to pass that on to somebody else, and it was good because he sort of reflected on it and he thought, okay, actually that's a fair point. So he was able to take that step back as well. I think that we were lucky to start the process so granular, because then we were able to zoom out.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think if we had approached it in that way, it might have been quicker.
Yeah.
It was probably going to be easier, but I think we had to take that journey because then you loop back around on the importance of it.
Yeah, and there was so much to capture from your team as well, so it was so important. It required those several hours.
So many hours. Yeah, but it's important. It's good.
And the experience, how did you find the experience of going through a rebrand?
You go from uncomfortable to comfortable, I suppose. And I would assume that if it's a brand that you start for yourself, then you aren't second guessing as much, I don't think. Obviously, you're going to second guess yourself no matter what you do, depending on what brand it is and the type of business it is. The second guessing for us came from being the third generation, trying to put ourselves in the shoes of our grandfather and our father, which in hindsight, I think we had to go through those steps to realise that the point of doing the refresh in the first place was to put our own stamp on it. And it helped that you guided us through that process, because I think we would have been stuck in the mud and never made a difference, and never made a change to it. But it was sort of like I was going to say a Sherpa.
That's nice.
Like a Sherpa carrying us up the mountain, at least guiding us up the mountain.
I'm going to put a photo of me and you three, and I'm going to carry you all up the mountain.
like in a pack.